Grinding offensives are dominating the Russia-Ukraine war as both sides continue to strike each other, trying to maximize the impact. The path to peace remains deadlocked. In the latest, Russian forces have ramped up offensive operations in Donbas as President Vladimir Putin demands decisive gains and eyes Konstantinovka, a key node in Ukraine's fortress belt. Russia claims its forces have made advances in the Donetsk region, while Ukraine reports more than 200 frontline battles with Russia. Moscow claims Russian forces have struck 148 areas in the past 24 hours, targeting Ukraine's fuel depots, energy and transportation infrastructure, long-range drone production and storage sites, and temporary deployment points of Ukrainian armed forces. Russia says it controls 128 buildings in Konstantinovka as troops continued clearing the remaining Ukrainian forces from southwestern parts. Ukraine, on the other hand, is striking back. President Volodymyr Zelenskyy claims that Ukraine has destroyed more than 60,000 tons of ammunition at a Baltic Fleet arsenal near St. Petersburg after the recent drone raids. Ukraine struck St. Petersburg in early June, with the strikes coinciding with the beginning of the St. Petersburg International Economic Forum. As the fighting rages on, Russia has accused the United States of failing to deliver on understandings reached between Presidents Putin and President Trump at a summit in Alaska last August, a shift that suggests growing frustration in Moscow.
Its Ukraine crisis settlements parameters were discussed and mostly agreed on during summit in Alaska almost a year ago. The American negotiators proposed their plan of actions, and we have agreed to it. To implement it, negotiations on the details of a political settlement needed to start, but as you can see, I do not even want to suspect that Alaska, like the European actions, was intended to buy time to rearm the Kiev regime. I do not even want to think about it, but in practice it turned out the way it turned out.
In the space of 3 days, 3 senior Russian officials have said, without providing specifics, that Washington has not followed through. Their commitments follow an intensification of Ukraine's drone strikes deep inside Russia. This includes 2 attacks on a Moscow oil refinery last week and G7 summit at which Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy told Trump and other Western leaders that Kyiv has been turning the tide of the war. As fears of a fresh multi-country arms race grows, the Kremlin has made a bold statement. It says nuclear weapons are the only bulwark preventing the world from slipping into a global war. Speaking in Moscow, the Kremlin's spokesperson Dmitry Peskov says that the global security system is eroding the last nuclear arms control treaty between Russia and the United States. The New START expired in February, releasing restrictions on the world's 2 largest nuclear powers. There have been no signs so far of either side moving to renew or replace the accord, even though both parties agreed to re-establish high-level military talks. President Trump has pressed for a new treaty to include China, whose nuclear arsenal is growing but still far smaller than that of Russia or the US. Beijing has publicly rejected the pressure. Moscow says if China is brought into a new deal, then so should Washington's nuclear allies, Britain and France.